Hi, I've been an L&D ID instructional designer for about 9 years. And sometimes people ask me how to get started with graphic design. So I'm going to just go through literally just some templates that are on Canva. And we're going to talk about how you can replicate them, even in a program like Microsoft PowerPoint. So sometimes it's good to have a subscription to something like Canva or Adobe Express. I think it's still called that. If it's not, oh well, that was what it was called last time I used it. But because you have access to all these templates, and what you can do if you don't have any sense of graphic design is look for what you like and then reverse engineer it. So let's do this one, for example, just looking at it. So what it is it's got this section at the top, so that I would say it's like 1/3 is the title with a little bit of information and some graphics, and then 2/3 are the schedule. And because the schedule is only 5 sections that are equally sized, there's space here for another graphic, and then a little bit of text at the bottom. So it's like 1/3 up here, 2/3 down here with the bulk of the visuals. So looking at these elements, you could say, okay, I'm gonna have text here, and I would say that's another 2/3 of the 1/3, right? So this part is just graphics. This part is the text. Then we've got two different types of fonts. One is more attention grabbing, it's got the color, and then we've got the business end of the font. So the font that's actually giving you more of the information. If we look at the colors going on, we can see we've got this kind of ochre color, we've got pink, we've got like this mint type color, light blue, light yellow. So how many colors is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So generally there are 5 colors plus this brown font. And so it looks like this designer tried to keep it to 6 colors, and then the background is like maybe like this very light peach color. So 7 colors total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, eight. 8 colors. Um, you want to try to keep a consistent font, right? Like one style of font is good. And then if you want one extra one for like that attention grabbing kind of call out, that's fine too. So this is like the title, and then the rest of the font is a consistent font. So that's one design. And obviously you would like click on it if you wanted to work with it and just really look at the elements that the designer chose. So something that's very clever here is they didn't put 3 lines. They just took one line because it's the same color as the background and just extended it through these blocks here. And that's another way that you can be creative and also save time, save effort when you're creating something and you've got a way of breaking up the space using lines and other elements that are the same color as the background, because it makes this cool separation between the day and then the activities. But visually, it looks like it's 3 different lines. Other things that you can look at are just like, what is the placement of the graphics? So they're kind of like evenly placed around each other, but they're also complementary because they're not all the same color. There's some variation there. And you can be judicious about when to use like a darker, bolder highlight rather than the regular font. So as you take in the different elements on a graphic, you can make your own decisions. So like something that's cool about this is that it's brought to the front. So positioning, it's all the way to the front. And that means that it can like overlap this Thursday and make a cool little visual there. So that's one flyer. Let's look at some more. So as you browse through flyers, you're really just, this is just one idea. A lot of times in my experience as an instructional designer, I've been asked to create flyers like this to advertise an L&D event or a training of some kind. The other major thing that I've been asked to do a lot of graphic design work on is PowerPoint decks. But PowerPoint decks are a slightly different beast. So today we're just looking at graphics on different flyers. So here's another one. And it's using half of the space for the main image. So that's taking up half of the space. And then the other half of the space is the text, and then 3 images. So we've got one big image here. That's one whole block taking up half of the flyer. And then at the bottom fourth, actually, the bottom fourth, you've got 1, 2, 3. We've got this triptych here with more pictures, I'm guessing, of the inside of this building. So this is a really simple, minimalist type of design because it's really just these 4 images plus the text. So this is a way to start making really clean designs by, okay, making decisions about what's going to take up space and where and how much space. So this designer said, this is going to be very bold. Like, we're calling attention to this because it's the building. We're calling attention to this building. So this image is taking up most of the space. And then once we've got people's attention with that image, we're saying what it is very boldly and when it is and where it is. And then, okay, are you curious about what it looks like on the inside? Well, here are 3 images, no more, no less. So you get some glimpse into what's on the inside. And so I think this is a really nice, clean design, and you could use it over and over again, and it will look different with whatever it is you're using it for, especially if you're changing up the colors. And notice that this blue kind of complements the blues in this larger image. Let's try something a little more complex. Just one more thing. How about what the hell? Those look like gorditas of some kind. Anyway, focus, focus, focus. How about this one? I obviously am drawn to like things that are colorful and a little playful. So at first glance, it looks like there's a lot going on. For someone who's new to design, they're like, where do I even start? Well, let's look at what is actually, what are the contents of the flyer. So first, it's the event schedule, and then it's really going to depend every time you make a new design what you actually have to make choices about in terms of what's going on the flyer. So here we've got to fit at least 4 main things, right? We've got 4 days that we're advertising for on the flyer. So when you're making choices about a template that you want to just copy from, or you're making decisions about something that you want to draw inspiration from, but you're going to make quite a few changes. You're thinking about what actually needs to fit on the flyer. And here, the designer chose to take up most of the space with the events that are being, called attention to. So they have the really big, bold text up here to draw your attention. What is it? It's an event schedule. And then there's really only two other things that are being called attention to up here, which is when. When is it? And they chose to make it a little fun by spreading out some of, something that can look really boring if you're just putting like event, when, and just making a list. This makes it a little more interesting, a little more engaging. So the designer chose to bring these elements this November up to the front and have the event schedule behind, but you can read it well enough that this makes it cute and not cumbersome. So most of the flyer really though, like I said, is the days and what's happening. And what are the actual visual elements? We've got 4 rectangles. That's in the very back of the design. And then we've got the text. So we've really got 2 types of text. We've got the main text, which is saying what it is, and then where it is. What it is, where it is, what it is, where it is. So that's taking up the space. Then we've got this little star thing. So wherever the star thing is where the date is not. They're on opposite sides. Bold font, smaller font, little star, and then we've got the date. So that's another element, and then some kind of shape for the date to live in that is different visually from this rectangle. And still, because of the color scheme, because it's kind of like these pastels, except for this yellow is not pastel. It's kind of consistent in terms of the color scheme. When you're choosing fonts, it's always good to on a flyer have no more than 2. And if you've got more than that, or if you're not consistent with the font, it just starts to look weird. So these are very complementary to each other, so they work well. And I'm just looking. Are these both sans fonts? This one's small. Yeah, so they're both fonts that are sans, which means I won't go into that. It's boring. But they're a type of font, and if you're a font nerd, then you know what I'm talking about. So we've got triangle, bold font, smaller font, which is a different type of font, but they're complementary, so they work fine, and they are aligned. So that's another thing to keep in mind as you're starting to think about how to organize elements on a page for a flyer. This is kind of a one-off thing at the top because it's not aligned. It's askew. It's at an angle, but it looks cute. It looks fine. But then everywhere else, everything is very aligned in terms of this font and this font are exactly aligned in their little respective boxes. And these stars touch the rectangles in exactly the same place depending on where they're alternating. They hug the curve of the rectangle. And we've got these little guys, whatever they are, um, little bursts, little starburst things. The font that goes in here matches this font and it's centered. So when you would go to the position, you would highlight both of these and make sure that they are centered in the center and centered in the middle. So you can see that each place. And then in terms of the space that the font is taking up, it's quite different. But here it's more pushed to the left. Here it's in the middle, and here it's to the left. You can tell that this font here and this font, the text here and this text here is aligned. See, and then this text here and this text here, are they aligned? Hold on a second. Mm, just aligned, yes. So there is a method that this designer is taking in terms of these two are identical. These two elements all together, the rectangle and all of the fonts and all of the little elements are aligned exactly, replicated here. So that's another thing about a design. Once you've got the basic idea for how you want it to look, but you want things to alternate a little bit, you just need to make sure that your first one, the so like this one, this is an entire unit that will represent whatever it is you're trying to advertise. And so you like the way it looks, you can just duplicate this whole thing, bring it down here, make sure everything is aligned with this one, and then change the colors and obviously change the information. And now you've got two things that are doing exactly the same thing visually, and you don't have to change every single one. You're only changing this one and this one. Like once you've got the design down, you're just alternating out the colors and the text. And that just makes it more uniform, even if you are making the design a little bit funky, a little bit off center, a little bit askew. You can see that there are still certain ways that you're aligning things and making them equal and visually balanced throughout the design. And then down here, they're using like just a little bit more text to get your attention. And yeah, it's a fun design. And once you see that there's patterns in the design that you just replicate, you copy and paste essentially. And once you see that like the colors have a consistency and there are certain elements, certain choices that you're making that are repeated throughout the design, it helps you understand that designs do have like a balance. And when you look at them as a whole and analyze them as a whole, you see where things are being repeated, which, because there are different things being written, it feels different for an untrained eye. But someone who's a designer will see all of the patterns within it. You're, what you're doing is you're reverse engineering it. Once you understand the elements, you can go into some other program, even like InDesign or Illustrator or even PowerPoint, and replicate something that you like using the inspiration that you got and your understanding of how the designer balanced the elements so that you can do the same. So who knows? I really don't know if this is interesting to you, but because people do come to me to ask about learning and development stuff and instructional design stuff and getting started with graphic design, I thought I would do something a little different today and talk about how to reverse engineer any design that you see and use what you learn from doing that to create your own designs. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching.